Hi everybody, welcome to Module 1 of the program, Creating a Clean Slate. So today we're going to talk about discovering your story and kind of what that's all about. So we're going to be working towards kind of getting rid of your story so we can get to that clean slate process, but kind of like starting fresh. But in order to do that, first you need to find out what exactly is your story. And so if you're wondering kind of, or if you're thinking to yourself like, I don't have a story, we're going to we're going to figure that out right now. So discovering your story is kind of, it's one of those things that kind of runs in the background of your life. And I'll use myself as an example of past stories that I've had about myself. I'll use myself as an example for the stories that I've held in the past about myself that I have gotten rid of. But your story is something that you kind of tell yourself in the background. It's usually followed by kind of I am, right? So your story could be something like, I'm stressed. I'm just stressed out all the time. I'm so busy. I'm, what else? I'm tired all the time. I'm gonna be single forever. That's my story. I'm gonna be single forever. Or I don't have any good friends. I don't have any close friends. So those are things that really stand in our way. What the story does, it kind of stands in your way of creating and allowing something new to come in. And so to discover your story, it's really just as simple as that. I want you to ask yourself, just kind of take maybe a pause here, a moment, and just be with yourself and say, what do I say to myself about myself? First of all, it's kind of like conversations you have with yourself. And usually they're negative, right? Like, oh, God, I'm so overweight. I'm always struggling with my weight. Or, you know, like, again, as I had said, like, I can never get a date. I can't find a man. I guess I'm just destined to be alone. Or I don't know why I don't have a family like everybody else. That was one of my stories. There must be something wrong with me. That type of thing. So to discover your story, it's just really taking a quiet pause and thinking about, on the dark side, what you tell yourself about yourself, and also kind of to your truest and closest, whether it's friends or family, like the people that you'll kind of like complain about when you don't have, you know, the facade on, when you don't have your happy face on, the things that you're telling them. So that's your story. And the thing about our stories is a couple things to know about your story. One, it's true for you. It's definitely a true story. It's like, yeah, well, I'm not married. I don't have kids, or I am sick, or I've always been in debt, like, or I've never felt like my career has been right for me. I just never quite feel like I fit, or I fit in, or I don't make powerful decisions. I just don't make good decisions. That's your story. And what happens is that story just runs in the background of your life. It's a subconscious thing, right? You're not consciously trying to declare to the world that I make terrible decisions about everything, or I don't know how to make a powerful decision. But it runs in the background, and it really gets in the way of you allowing anything that doesn't agree with that. So what happens energetically, so we'll talk in this program a lot, obviously energetically and spiritually, and how that kind of manifests in the physical world, right? So we're gonna, because this is a whole health program, holistic, we're gonna be looking at everything holistically. It's just not in one dimension. It's not just in the physical dimension, or just in the mental, emotional dimension, or just in the spiritual dimension, right? But when you hang on to this story, it is manifesting in all of those dimensions. It's kind of like all of your being and all of your circumstances come in alignment with this story. And it happens without your even knowing it. And it's kind of like this agreement, and we'll get into this later, but it's like this agreement that what you declare, who you declare yourself to be, whether it's silently to yourself or out loud to others, is actually what is going to manifest in your life. And so I imagine if you're here in this program is really how to overcome worry and anxiety and that whole feeling of just constantly like striving and being an overwhelm, right? So those would be part of I think those would probably be part of your story, right? Like, I'm so stressed, I'm always anxious, or I'm always worried, or I'm just a nervous person, like I've always been like that, or I just always rev high, like that's just who I am. Well, I have some news for you today. That is not who you are, and you're gonna find out who you are through this program, and I'm so excited for that to happen for you. But what I'm going to encourage you to do after this video is just take some time and write it out. I think that's usually the best way to do it. Get yourself a notebook maybe for this course and for this program, and write it out. Write out what, and be real with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Again, so for me, I'll give you some examples. As I said, one of the things that I kind of always, I guess one of my like things running in the background always was, I can't. And like something would come up and I'd say, oh, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. Or I wouldn't be any good at that. Those were a lot of things that it just, man, when I look back, it's like that really was my story. I really felt that to be the truth about myself. Like, I just can't, I don't know how, I'm not like everybody else. I'm not like you. I'm not like you. And I would get so angry. I'd be so just pissed off that I was like, I'm not you. I don't have your courage, or I don't have your family. I don't have a husband. I don't have the money you have. I'm not you. I'm not like you. And so that was my story. Like, one of the biggest things was, and it felt so negative, so heavy and depressing to me, was I'm different than you are. And it didn't feel like, I feel like now where it's like, yeah, I'm different than you are, like I embrace it now. But before it just felt like, I'm different than you are, I'm not you, like, and meaning like I'm not okay, I'm not normal. And so I want you to get to that kind of dark place, and you might have multiple stories as I did. So 3, 4, 5 underlying ways of kind of being, thinking, or doing of how you run your life. That's your story. And again, I just want to let you know that I am not in any way diminishing your story. And like, for example, if you're a victim of abuse, it's kind of like one of your stories is like, I'm hurt, I'm a victim, I was abused. And that is a true story. That did happen, and that is how you feel. But we're going to let that go. Even if, I'm going to encourage you, like, even as we move along, you're going to let it go for small amounts of time, and then it's going to go, you're going to be able to go longer and longer and longer without having that be part of your story, because we're allowing for creating something wonderful and new. So trust me in this process. All I need you to do right now is identify what your story is. And I will see you next time.